Sarah was a young mother. She had her daughter, Emily, when she was just 15 years old. Sarah's parents were very supportive, and they helped her to take care of Emily. As Emily grew up, people often mistook Sarah for her sister. They would ask Emily, "Is that your sister?" And Emily would reply, "No, that's my mom." Sarah and Emily were very close. They did everything together. They went shopping, watched movies, and even went to the same hair salon. When Emily started high school, Sarah was only 31 years old. She was still very young, and people often thought she was Emily's older sister. One day, Emily's friends asked her, "How do you feel about having a mom who is so young?" Emily replied, "I love it. My mom is my best friend." Sarah was proud of the woman Emily was becoming. She was smart, kind, and beautiful. Sarah knew that she had done a great job raising her daughter. As the years went by, Sarah and Emily continued to be inseparable. They went to college together, started careers, and even traveled the world together. People would often stare at them in amazement, wondering how a mother and daughter could be so close in age. But Sarah and Emily didn't mind. They knew that their bond was special, and they cherished every moment they spent together. One day, Emily turned to Sarah and said, "Mom, I'm so grateful to have you in my life. You're not only my mom, but also my best friend." Sarah smiled, feeling happy and proud. "I love you too, Emily," she said. "We may be close in age, but you will always be my baby." And with that, Sarah and Emily hugged each other tightly, grateful for the special bond they shared. As Sarah and Emily went about their daily lives, they couldn't help but notice the attention they received from men. It seemed like every time they went out, they were surrounded by admiring glances and flirtatious comments. Sarah, being the young and beautiful mother that she was, attracted a lot of attention from men. They would often stare at her, mesmerized by her youthful energy and beauty, but what was even more surprising was the attention Emily received. Despite being Sarah's daughter, Emily was a stunning young woman in her own right. She had inherited her mother's beauty and charm, and men couldn't help but be drawn to her. As a result, Sarah and Emily often found themselves being hit on by men. They would receive flirtatious comments, invitations to dinner, and even outright proposals. At first, Sarah was flattered by the attention. She had always been confident in her own beauty, but it was nice to have it confirmed by others. But as time went on, Sarah began to feel overwhelmed by the constant attention. She just wanted to be able to go out with her daughter without being hit on by every man they met. Emily, on the other hand, was more amused by the attention. She would often laugh and joke with the men who hit on her, but she never took them seriously. As time passed, Emily's beauty continued to blossom. She grew into a stunning young woman, with a radiant smile and piercing green eyes. Her long, curly hair cascaded down her back, and her fit physique turned heads wherever she went. Sarah, who had always been confident in her own beauty, couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy as she watched her daughter's beauty overshadow her own. She had always been the center of attention, but now Emily was stealing the spotlight. At first, Sarah tried to brush off the feeling. She told herself that she was being ridiculous, that she was happy for her daughter's success. But as the days went by, the jealousy only grew. Sarah started to notice the way men looked at Emily. The way they fawned over her and ignored Sarah. She saw the way Emily's friends looked up to her, the way they admired her beauty and her confidence, and Sarah couldn't help but feel like she was losing her own identity. She had always been the beautiful one, the one who turned heads. But now, Emily was taking that away from her. One day, Sarah found herself lashing out at Emily. They were getting ready to go out, and Emily was trying on a new dress. Sarah saw how beautiful she looked, and something inside of her snapped. "Emily, you're not even trying to tone it down, are you?" Sarah said, her voice bitter. "You're just flaunting your beauty in front of everyone. aren't you?" Emily was taken aback by her mother's outburst. "Mom, what's wrong?" she asked, concern etched on her face, but Sarah just shook her head. "Nothing, Emily. Just forget it," and with that, Sarah stormed out of the room, leaving Emily feeling confused and hurt. Sarah's jealousy had become unbearable. She couldn't stand the thought of Emily being with anyone else, and she found herself constantly admiring every man that came her daughter's way. It didn't matter if the man was old, young, tall, or short, Sarah would find a way to justify why he was perfect for Emily. She would often find herself daydreaming about what it would be like if Emily were to marry one of these men, and she would spend hours imagining all the details of their wedding day. Emily, who had always been close to her mother, began to notice a change in Sarah's behavior. She would catch her mother staring at her boyfriends, a look of longing in her eyes. And when Emily would try to talk to her mother about it, Sarah would just brush it off, saying she was being ridiculous, but Emily knew what she saw, and it made her uncomfortable. She didn't understand why her mother was acting this way, and she didn't know how to make it stop. As the days went by, Sarah's behavior became more and more erratic. She would show up at Emily's workplace, unannounced, and proceed to flirt shamelessly with Emily's male coworkers. She would ask Emily's boyfriends invasive questions, trying to get a rise out of them. And she would often make snide comments about Emily's appearance, saying she wasn't dressing provocatively enough. Emily was at her wits' end. She didn't know what to do, or how to make her mother stop. She felt like she was losing her mind, and she just wanted things to go back to normal, but as she looked at her mother, she saw something there that gave her pause. She saw a deep-seated insecurity, a fear of being replaced by her own daughter. And she realized that her mother's behavior wasn't just about jealousy, it was about a desperate need for validation. Sarah's behavior towards Emily's fiancé, Jack, had been suspicious for weeks. Emily had noticed that her mother would often find excuses to touch Jack's arm or brush against him, and she would often make flirtatious comments that made Emily uncomfortable. At first, Emily had tried to brush it off as harmless. But as time went on, she couldn't shake the feeling that her mother was playing games with her fiancé. One day, Emily confronted her mother about her behavior. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something," Emily said, her voice firm but shaking with emotion. "What is it, sweetie?" Sarah asked, her voice innocent. "It's about Jack," Emily said. "I've noticed that you've been flirting with him. And it's making me really uncomfortable," Sarah laughed. "Oh, Emily, don't be ridiculous," she said. "I'm just being friendly," but Emily knew what she had seen, and she knew that her mother's behavior was not just friendly. She was playing games with Jack, and Emily was determined to put a stop to it. "Mom, I mean it," Emily said, her voice firm. "You need to back off and respect my relationship with Jack." Sarah's smile faltered, and for a moment, Emily saw a flash of anger in her mother's eyes. But then, Sarah's face smoothed out, and she smiled again. "Of course, sweetie," Sarah said. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." But Emily knew that her mother was lying, and she knew that she needed to keep a close eye on her to make sure she didn't continue to play games with Jack. Emily's suspicions about her mother's behavior had been growing for weeks. She had noticed that her mother would often find excuses to visit Jack's house, and she would often receive phone calls from Jack, telling her that her mother had stopped by to visit. At first, Emily had tried to brush it off as harmless. But as time went on, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One day, Emily decided to confront her suspicions head-on. She drove to Jack's house, unannounced, and let herself in with the key he had given her. As she walked into the bedroom, she was met with a scene that made her blood run cold. Her mother, Sarah, was making love with Jack. They were very close together. And Jack's arm was around Sarah's waist. Emily felt like she had been punched in the gut. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her mother, the woman who was supposed to be her rock and her confidant, was betraying her in the worst possible way. "Mom, what is going on here?" Emily demanded, her voice shaking with anger and hurt. Sarah and Jack both jumped up from the bed, looking guilty and sheepish. "Emily, honey, it's not what it looks like," Sarah said, trying to placate her, but Emily was having none of it. "Don't lie to me, Mom," she said, her voice cold and hard. "I can see exactly what's going on here." Jack tried to intervene, but Emily pushed him away. "You're just as bad as she is." She spat at him. "I thought I could trust you, but I guess I was wrong." And with that, Emily turned and walked out of the house, leaving her mother and Jack to their deceitful games. She knew that she would never be able to trust either of them again. Emily was devastated. She had never felt so betrayed and hurt in her life. She didn't know how she was going to be able to face her mother and Jack again. She packed a small bag and left her mother's house, not knowing where she was going or what she was going to do. She just knew she had to get away. As she walked, she found herself in a small park. She sat down on a bench, trying to process everything that had happened. As she sat there, she noticed a man sitting on a bench across from her. He was handsome, with piercing blue eyes and a strong jawline. He smiled at her, and Emily felt a spark of attraction. "Hi," he said, getting up and walking over to her. "My name is Ryan. I couldn't help but notice you look like you're going through a tough time." Emily was taken aback by his kindness. She found herself opening up to him, telling him everything that had happened with her mother and Jack. Ryan listened attentively, his eyes filled with compassion. When Emily finished talking, he took her hand in his. "I'm so sorry you're going through this," he said. "But I want you to know that you're not alone. I'm here for you." Emily felt a sense of comfort and security that she hadn't felt in a long time. She smiled at Ryan, feeling a spark of hope. Over the next few weeks, Emily and Ryan spent all their time together. They went on walks, had picnics, and just talked. Emily felt like she had found a true friend, but as they spent more time together, Emily realized that her feelings for Ryan went beyond friendship. She was falling in love with him, and to her surprise, Ryan felt the same way. He told her that he had been drawn to her from the moment he met her, and that he couldn't imagine his life without her. As they sat together on a bench, holding hands and looking into each other's eyes, Emily felt a sense of peace and happiness that she hadn't felt in a long time. And then, Ryan had an idea. "Emily, I want to help you and your family heal," he said. "Will you let me try?" Emily was skeptical, but she trusted Ryan. She nodded, and Ryan took her hand. Together, they went to see Emily's mother and Jack. Ryan sat them all down and had a long talk with them. He helped them to see how their actions had hurt Emily, and he encouraged them to apologize and make amends. It wasn't easy, but slowly, the family began to heal. Emily's mother and Jack apologized for their betrayal, and Emily was able to forgive them, and through it all, Ryan was there, supporting Emily and helping her to heal. Emily realized that she had found not only a true love, but also a true friend. As they all sat together, holding hands and smiling, Emily knew that she had finally found happiness. She had found a man who loved her for who she was, and she had found a family that was willing to work through their problems and come out stronger on the other side.